Good morning. Good morning. Can't believe it's already been another week. We already are at another Monday Mindsets. Unbelievable. It is the first Monday in December. So I hope you're ready to crush the last month of the year. Hope you have your goals set today. We're going to talk about leadership and how do you motivate and manage great teams? Because if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. I think it was John Maxwell, the godfather of leadership, who said everything rises and falls in life and in business by leadership. So leadership is one of the number one skills you need. And it's something, I know Andy Elliott, who we saw at 8%, he said, if you want to be basically a multimillionaire and great in this life, you have to learn two skill sets. One is sales, the other is leadership. You got to learn to lead yourself and learn people. We're going to talk about that today. Before we do that, I'm going to cue this intro and I'll see you on the other side.
There are no bad businesses. There are just those people who don't know enough to see the opportunities in the work they're in. If there seems to be no future or opportunity in it, it isn't always because it's not there, but perhaps only because we can't see it.
Good morning. Good morning once again, Melissa. Good morning. Good to see you. Alex, good morning. Those who are on Facebook, if you can allow StreamYard to see your comments, I think you go to StreamYard.com/Facebook and you can give Facebook or StreamYard permission to see your actual username. Those who are joining on Instagram, good morning. Today, I want to talk about how to motivate and manage great teams. I think it's one of the number one skill sets you need. I mentioned, obviously, in the intro, Andy Elliott, who's like the number one sales trainer up and coming right now. Just guys blowing up on YouTube. So check out his stuff. A little aggressive, a little intense, but you got to be intense in life to get what you want. But he says, hey, look, if you want to be a multimillionaire, if you want to succeed in this life, it's really two things. It's sales and leadership. And John Maxwell, who's written probably the most books on the art of leadership, has found that everything rises and falls with leadership. And I want to share with you guys today just some thoughts on leadership that I've learned that you can apply hopefully in your life, in your business. But before you can lead people successfully, you have to lead yourself. And a lot of people don't think about it in life that way, that you have to be intentional about leading yourself, right? You have to deal with the man in the mirror. And so you have to lead yourself well. And that means you have to do what you say you're going to do. You have to show up for yourself every single day. And you have to put in the work, because people won't follow someone that they do not believe can help them succeed. And one of the things that they look at is how you run your own life, the results that you get, right? One of the greatest tips that I've ever was given that maybe you've heard before is don't take advice from someone who has not achieved in life the things that you want. Right? So often we're on YouTube, on Instagram, right? And we're listening to people and we don't even want the result that they have in their life, but we're listening to their advice. You need to look at what the people have accomplished in their life, and do they have the life that you want? And guess what? Success is different for most people. My success and what I view as successful is going to be a little bit different than what you view as successful. And there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, the more you get good with your version of success, the more you get good with yourself and what you want to obtain, the better your life is going to be, because you're not literally comparing yourselves to other people all day long. You're just comparing yourself to the future you of what you want out of life. And that's a huge mind shift that is instrumental in changing what I believe is your fulfillment. Stop comparing yourself to others. That's the thief of all joy, comparison is. Compare yourself to your future self, the self that you want to be, that 20-year letter that you wrote 20 years from now. What do you want your life to look like? That's who you should be comparing yourself to and going, hey, would my future self be proud of the decisions that Luke Acree is making today? Because that future self is going to pay the debt that Luke Acree puts in today. A good debt or a bad debt, he's going to pay it. And so that's who you really should compare yourself to. So the first rule of leadership always is to lead yourself well and show up for yourself. Do what you say you're going to do. Josh, good morning. Good to see you, brother. Thanks for joining. Let's talk leadership. I just want to give you some points here that I believe I've learned over leading big teams and small teams that tend to be critical in driving success in the people that you lead. The first is that in order to be an incredible leader, you have to establish clear goals and set clear expectations. So John Maxwell says everything rises and falls with leadership. But when I look at the brokenness of companies, the brokenness of relationships, I really feel like the big pain point is it always has to do with communication. It always has to do with expectations not being met. And when you dig in, right, if you ever have the chance to consult or counsel or look into other people's kind of business or their life, what you find is, man, they did a really poor job setting clear expectations. And when expectations aren't met, that's when unhappiness comes in. That's when, people get disgruntled. And so the job of a great leader is to set a really clear goal, right? A really clear vision, but to set really clear expectations for that person on the team. It is so worth doing the work. And don't do this excuse. The excuse that a lot of people do is they go, well, we have this great vision that we're all moving towards. And so they know what we want to achieve. So they're going to be able to figure out what they need to do in their day to day because they know what the vision we're trying to accomplish. We're trying to build a $10 million company or we're trying to sell to XYZ. They know what we're trying to do goal wise. So you don't set the clear expectations in the day to day. And I'm telling you, that will lead to destruction. I've run teams that way and it's a disaster because what someone views as successful is going to be a little different than what you view as successful and how they live and what they do. And in order to be a great leader, you got to set clear goals and expectations. Second thing you need to do, or this is my opinion, right? So this is not an all encapsulating list of great leadership tips. This is just some of the things in my journey that I believe have attributed to some of my success. One is foster open and regular communication. So you set the goals and you communicate the expectations, but it's critical to walk with your people. And the only way to walk with your people is to be with your people, right? Is to have open and regular communication with them. When you get a little bit more corporatized, unfortunately, I hate that word, but my organization's becoming a little bit more corporatized. You get down to where you have these structures of, you have your quarterly meetings and then you have your monthly check-ins and then you have your, biweekly or weekly one-on-one. So you have a structure of a meeting cadence to try to foster open dialogue. But when you're small, I loved it when we were more entrepreneurial and smaller. Man, we were sitting beside each other all day. So we were constantly communicating back and forth. But I saw I don't know if it was an Instagram reel or where it was, but it was a pretty cool video that said you can tell if you have a good leader or the quality of the leader by how disgruntled the team is underneath them. And how many A players are leaving that team. So you can see, okay, am I a good leader or not? Or do I have good leaders on my team? Are the people underneath them fulfilled, happy? Obviously, they're going to have hard times. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about a disgruntledness, that kind of makes people not actually want to work there. Because the number one reason why people leave a job is because of the boss. Right? It's not usually because of the income. Everybody thinks it's because of the income. It's actually because of the boss. So is the team disgruntled? Are they losing A players? And are they replacing them with B players or C players? Because that is such a reflection of the quality of your leadership. If you're losing A players, that happens. I've lost A players. People lose A players. I don't want to. I got to get better. But I've lost A players. But are you replacing that person with a C player, with a B player? That speaks to the quality of your leadership and your ability to set clear goals, expectations, and have open communication, because A players want to work for A leaders, right? So you're going to attract what you are. So if you want to have great team members, become a great team member. If you want to have great team members, become a great leader. Okay, third point I would make for you is empower and trust your team. So this is such a hard balance I have found between micromanaging, that concept, and full autonomy. And don't make the mistake that empowering your team means you just let them run and do their ideas and do everything kind of on their own. They have full autonomy, they run and go. I have not found that to play out to do very well for me in my career. Empowering the team is bringing them into the process of the strategy, heeding their thoughts, their ideas, empowering them in the discussion. And then together, it's like the biblical principle, iron sharpens iron. Together, as you hash out the ideas, their thoughts on the strategy, your thoughts on the strategy and implementation, you sharpen the strategy and sharpen the idea. So you're involved in the measurement, you're involved in the strategy, you're involved in the goal setting. But then you let them obviously be a part of it to help empower that. Because I found is if you give people too much autonomy, right, it's like giving someone too much rope, right? They end up hurting themselves. So you got to be involved in that process. Now, this is just my experience, but it has hurt me a lot of times by using the excuse to myself that I don't want to micromanage. So I'm not going to be that hovering leader that's hovering over everything they do. But the reality is that that's just an excuse for you not having open communication, setting clear goals and expectations, and then working together with that open communication to develop the plan that they're going to execute and checking in along the way, right? So to be a good coach, you got to be a good accountability partner. All right, fourth, well, I'm going to stop there for a second. I would love for you guys, if you've had good leaders in your time, just chat in, like, what was the quality of that leader? Like, what was it that brought the best out of you? What is it when you've looked at the leaders in your life that have been phenomenal and the teams you've been a part of that have been phenomenal? What was it that they had? I would love for you to chat that in, even if you feel like maybe it's counteracting some of the things I'm saying. I would love to chat that in to hear kind of what you guys' thoughts are. But here is another tip I would give you when it comes to great leadership. And this is probably my weakest piece, or at least the feedback I've gotten from team members, is recognizing and appreciating achievements. I've learned fear is a better motivator. Like the stick is a better motivator, honestly, than the carrot, but the stick erodes culture, right? So the stick is a better motivator. And I think it's proven in psychology that people are motivated like almost 10 times more by the fear of like the consequence or the discipline or whatever. But the problem with leading purely by the stick and not having a culture of positivity and appreciation and recognition is it erodes your culture. And even though you might get more work out of the person, you're going to eventually, over time, at least in my experience, crush innovation and then crush the quality of the product that you're producing, because the person's going to do it out of spite, not out of passion or desire, or just because of the fulfillment they get of doing it. So you need the consequence, but I have found that in order to be a great leader, don't underestimate the power of recognizing somebody and the power of saying thank you, the power of shouting somebody out. Shame on me for not continuing it, but I used to write handwritten notes to some of my team members after they did something great. I would find out from executives or from leaders who's really killing it in the organization. And I would write them a handwritten note, just thanking them for their contribution. And I have employees to this day that have kept those handwritten notes. So this is a note to myself to pick that habit back up. But just don't underestimate the power of a thank you, the power of appreciation, creating a culture. So one of the things that I do at my executive meeting, and sorry that I'm looking up and down. So I have the Insurance Syndicate on Facebook right here, and then I have my Instagram up over here. But one of the things that I'm doing in my executive meeting is we're opening up the meeting, and we open up with reminding ourselves of our vision and our mission. And everything we talk about, as corny as it sounds, I try to reiterate and go, guys, everything we discuss in here has to align and point back to moving this vision and this mission forward. And then the next step in my agenda is to throw it out to the table of executives. I'd love to give an opportunity for anyone to shout out someone across the organization or a team across the organization that they feel is really going above and beyond right now, really killing it. And my whole goal with doing that is to not only elevate the top performers by hearing who they are throughout our organization, but creating a culture of appreciation, a culture of gratitude. And I've encouraged my executive team, put that down in your meetings. If you see it valuable, start your meetings, maybe not every meeting, but your main meetings where you give an opportunity for people to express or shout somebody out in the organization, because you got to be intentional about the values that you represent. And I have underestimated that in my journey because, I'm just living it just like you're living it every single day. And you're just like, yeah, people get it. People know I appreciate them. It's like, no. You got to be intentional. Just like with my wife, I got to be intentional about complimenting her. I got to be intentional about calling out the things that I love in her, because why? What you appreciate in life appreciates, right? What you appreciate appreciates. Like a real estate asset goes up in value. If you appreciate your team and create that culture, they're going to go up in value. At least that's my belief. All right. So here's another point for you in leadership is create a culture and encourage a culture of professional development, right? You've read the book Atomic Habits. You want a culture where you are seeking to get 1% better every single day. And you want to encourage that into your culture. So what are some of the ways you can do this? Well, you got to model this for people. So what books are you reading? How are you focusing on your health, right? If I think about the 5 F's for myself, right? Family, friendship, finance, fitness, faith. Like, how am I improving in those areas in my personal development? Because I want to model for people what I want them to do. And then how do I implement into my structures professional development? So I've done everything from buying courses for my team members, sending my teams to conferences, sending my team members to trainings. My HR director is an absolute stud. He can put together these incredible training workshops on leadership and stuff like that. So doing those monthly, but you want to create a culture of professional development. Why? Look, we're a family company. My uncle works here. My brother works here. My cousin works here. We're a family-owned business, but we're not just a family organization. We're a high-performance team. And high-performance teams, you're not just an athlete when you join the NBA. You're a professional athlete. What does it mean to be a professional? It means you train, right? If you're a pro, it means you are training to master the art and science of your craft. And so you have a culture in your organization of, hey, we're a high-performance team. Yes, I love you like family, but at the end of the day, look, you're not hiring or not firing family. Usually you can't get rid of your family, right? You didn't choose them. You're born into it. But you're firing and you're promoting people within your organization, because just like an NBA team, people get cut from the team. People are star players on the team. People sit on the bench on the team. You are a high-performance team, and you need to create a culture of personal development and professional development. All right, so I'm going to wrap up because I already see we're like 18 minutes in. So I had a bunch more tips, but for the sake of time, I'll just give you some of the quick ones here at the end. One is seek feedback and continuous improvement. So you as a leader, have you ever done a 360 review? So a 360 review is where you get anonymous feedback from people above you, people beneath you, people that are your peers. You get anonymous feedback from them. It doesn't have to be anonymous, but a lot of times people aren't as truthful if it's not anonymous. And you get this feedback to understand how they perceive you, how they feel your leadership is, what are some of their best qualities, what are some of your worst qualities. It's a really powerful exercise to go through to get this feedback. The other place is have a culture where you share with people, hey, feedback's a gift. Whenever you give feedback to somebody, it's a gift that you're giving them. So share with your team members, hey, the feedback that you give me is a gift that you're giving me. So please do not hold back. We might not always agree on the feedback that you give. I might not always be able to change, but I would love to hear it, because at the very least, what you're doing is giving me your perspective on a certain topic. And in order to seek to have a great relationship with people, you got to seek to understand how they view things. So feedback is a way for you to see their perspective and to see how they view things, but you have to be intentional. When was the last time you asked a team member to give you raw and honest feedback? That is a great action item for you to help you improve in your leadership skills, because guess what? Perspective is their reality. And if you're leading them, the reality is how they're functioning. So you got to make sure you understand their perspective. Here's another one I'll close out with: value work-life balance. This is a hard one for me. I was part of and still am probably, really bought into the hustle culture, right? So I just love work. I don't even view it as work. I just love showing up. I tell my dad all the time when I talk to him, I go, man, I got to stop because it's never ending. Work is never ending. So I could just literally stay almost all night and just keep going. And, I feel blessed to be in a situation like that. But you got to have work-life balance. And more importantly, as a great leader, you got to understand your employees, your team members' work-life balance. And that means you got to get to know them. Do they have kids? Are they married? Are they not married? And what are their dreams? What are their passions? What do they want to accomplish? Your company is just a vehicle to help get them from point A to point B in their life of what they want to achieve. That's what your company is. And your vision hopefully is big enough to where people can get on your vehicle, get in your company, and achieve the vision for their life. Nobody usually stays at a company forever, right? You're going to have team members come and go over time. Your hope is that on the journey, when they got on your bus, that point A to point B, wherever their stop was, and they got off, they look back and go, man, I'm so appreciative of being part of Reminder Media, being part of Luke's team, because it helped me get closer to my goals. It improved me as an individual. And the truth is, you have to believe in, invest in people, because you believe people move the business. Now, here's what I'm not saying. In order to be a high achiever, you have to work hard. In order to be a high achiever, you're going to have to stay late on certain days that require to stay late. You're going to be able to go home maybe a little early on days that don't require you to work not as hard. There's a balance that happens, but really what this means to me, this value of work-life balance, I kind of see it as a circle. There's different seasons of life that people go through. But your job as a leader is to get to know your people, to get to know what they value from a work-life balance perspective to help them achieve. And you might find in these open dialogues and these conversations that you can't give them what they need at the point of their life that they need it versus the point of your company's life where it's at. And don't try to put a square peg in a round hole, right? So in our earlier days, and still to this day, but in our earlier days specifically, man, we needed hours and hours and hours of work, right? So if somebody comes in here and they need to just punch the clock 9 to 5 and they're trying to get home or whatever, hey, this is just not a fit at the time of our life cycle as a business and the time of your life cycle in your life. It's just not a fit because we really need people right now that can put it all in and can go the extra mile. And that's okay. What's not okay is if you fail to set clear goals and expectations, you fail to have open dialogue and communication, you fail to do those things at the beginning, and that's where you get a mismatch of people's desires and their belief, and that's what erodes teams. And in order to do this, every great team is built on trust. Every great team that has trust, they have something called healthy conflict, meaning they have real and direct dialogue. That is what you need. So those are just some tips for you that have helped me in my leadership journey. Hopefully will help you in your leadership journey. But it's Monday. It's the last month of the year. There's less than 30 days left, right, in this year. Make sure you are taking some time to reflect over the month of December here, not only to put your goals down on paper, but I talked about encouraging an atmosphere of professional development. You are a professional. You're not average. You're not mediocre. You're a professional. That means you have to train. That means you have to be intentional. Be intentional this week in what you're doing. Be intentional in your plan and work the plan. We just had an incredible interview with a guy that played in the professional baseball league. He played for the Yankees. He played for I think it was the Oakland A's. He played for a bunch of different teams. And he talked about playing with Derek Jeter. And I asked him on the podcast, I said, man, what's the difference in like the Derek Jeters versus you? Meaning like you're a professional. You're in literally the professional baseball league. What's the difference? And he said, well, Derek Jeter was so intentional about the plan that he put together and he worked the plan. And he didn't let a bad game or a bad 2 games or a rut that he got in throw him off from working the plan. He said every other player that's not a Derek Jeter they would get in a bad day or they have a bad game and then they tweak their plan. And Derek Jeter committed to his plan, was intentional about it, and then worked his plan. He was obsessed about it. And I thought that was such a powerful takeaway that the greats, they stick to it, they work the plan, they don't give up. That's what you need to do to be a great leader for your organization and for yourself. Let's have a great week. Get out there and win for yourself, win for your clients, win for your family. Appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in. And I'll see you next Monday.